Behind the surface-level glamour, American interest in Jungkook runs deeper. He represents scalability. Unlike other K-pop artists who depend heavily on group identity or label-driven marketing, Jungkook's reach is organic. The engagement that surrounds him isn't a coordinated campaign, it's a reaction. Brands have studied this pattern closely, the way he converts passive audiences into active consumers without overt promotion. That is what makes him invaluable to the US system. American entertainment operates on predictability. Investors and producers need stability in returns. Jungkook brings that assurance. When he collaborates, metrics rise predictably. When he appears, markets shift predictably. This reliability places him in a category no other K-pop artist has yet occupied, a self-sustaining global brand that doesn't need intermediaries to communicate value. That is also why the phrase "most wanted" isn't metaphorical. The US industry is in competition for association. Every brand, label, and streaming platform wants a fragment of Jungkook's relevance attached to them. For many, it's not about artistic synergy, but strategic alignment. In marketing meetings across Los Angeles and New York, his name surfaces as a variable for engagement amplification. The concept is simple. Attach to Jungkook, and the algorithm responds. The dynamic between Jungkook and the rest of the industry also exposes a silent truth that within BTS, there is one member who has managed to transcend categorization entirely. The others remain deeply respected, their contributions undeniable. But the American lens has narrowed its focus. When executives refer to global market potential, they often mean Jungkook. He is no longer perceived as an extension of BTS's fame, but as its evolution. Even during BTS's hiatus for military service, his presence didn't fade, it expanded. While the rest were seen in reflection, Jungkook stayed in motion, performing, collaborating, existing in the very spaces that define global visibility. The American market doesn't reward nostalgia, it rewards continuity. Jungkook provided that. Every performance, appearance, or campaign was a continuation of momentum. When Calvin Klein placed him at the center of their campaign, the move wasn't aesthetic, it was strategic. The brand knew the US demographic that follows K-pop also drives luxury consumption online. Jungkook didn't just fit the brand's image, he redefined it. The campaign's numbers in digital impressions, engagement, and post-purchase traffic reflected something the US fashion industry hadn't seen before from an Asian male figure. Direct purchasing behavior driven by personality-based appeal, not cultural novelty. This, again, is what separates him. For years, Western media treated Asian representation as symbolic, a gesture of inclusion. Jungkook erased that phase. In his case, inclusion turned into dominance. He doesn't enter conversations as representation, he enters as relevance. Every time his face appears in an ad, or his name trends on an American chart, the framing changes. It's not about a foreign act crossing over, it's about a global act occupying a space that was once localized. Within internal industry circles, this shift is tracked meticulously. Spotify executives, Billboard analysts, and YouTube strategists know his numbers aren't anomalies. They indicate behavioral change among consumers, how the younger demographic no longer identifies music by geography, but by identity resonance. Jungkook's identity isn't bound by language. The moment he performs, the listener doesn't need translation. Tone and rhythm carry comprehension. This is the point the US industry noticed early. He's the kind of artist who doesn't require narrative scaffolding. In a market oversaturated with stories, Jungkook stands out by eliminating excess. His music and imagery function as direct communication, minimal but deliberate. That's what resonates with the American public, who are constantly drawn toward authenticity that feels unfiltered. And that's why every American brand that aims to feel modern, connected, or youth-driven ends up circling back to Jungkook as a model of alignment. Meanwhile, other K-pop figures, even those from the same group, find themselves positioned differently. They are part of collective memory. While Jungkook has become present tense, he's the continuation of relevance that the American industry depends on to maintain cultural momentum. When you look at the data, it's visible. His solo works outperform collective releases in Western digital spaces. His mentions lead marketing algorithms, and his brand associations yield measurable profit margins. This is not to diminish others. It's to state the simple fact that America operates on hierarchy of relevance, not legacy. Jungkook sits at the top because his relevance is renewable. Each time he steps into a campaign, performance, or collaboration, it feels like an event. That event-driven culture is what drives American media, and Jungkook has mastered it. When you track his influence chronologically, every move aligns with American consumer psychology. His collaborations are never random. They intersect with timing, platform, and public mood. Seven hit at a moment when Western pop was recalibrating towards sensual simplicity. His live performances landed when streaming fatigue was rising, offering something visually disciplined but emotionally heavy. Even his fashion campaigns arrived when minimalist branding returned as trend. Jungkook doesn't follow trends, his timing defines them. From an internal business standpoint, this is the core reason the US keeps pursuing him. The system sees in Jungkook a guaranteed balance of art and commerce. He can be marketed as luxury, but consumed as relatable. He embodies the dual identity that American brands seek, but rarely find exclusivity that feels accessible. Beyond marketing, there's also creative understanding. Producers in Los Angeles who've worked with him note a distinct difference. Jungkook doesn't imitate Western production. He integrates it. His creative instincts align naturally with how American studios think in structure, pacing, and emotional contour. That's why his sound translates seamlessly. It doesn't sound foreign, it sounds global. This alignment creates what many call the Jungkook effect. It's a cycle where every release doesn't just attract fans, but restructures industry behavior. When Jungkook dropped Standing Next to You, TikTok trends adjusted around its rhythm. When his Calvin Klein campaign launched, brand storytelling across competitors shifted tone. His moves are no longer reactions to the market, they're triggers for it. In this sense, Jungkook has transcended being a pop figure. He's a system of influence, one that the American entertainment machine recognizes as both irreplaceable and strategic. His presence provides certainty in an industry built on unpredictability. That is why every executive conversation about next-generation relevance ends with his name. And yet, within that dominance lies an unspoken observation. Other members of his group can see it. The shift is visible. While they maintain respect and individuality, the American spotlight no longer distributes equally. Jungkook has become the nucleus, and the others orbit around his momentum. It's not about favoritism, it's about resonance. The US public has chosen who it connects with most deeply. What's fascinating is that Jungkook himself never chases this validation. His movements remain deliberate but grounded. He doesn't overexpose. He appears when the timing matters. That restraint, ironically, fuels anticipation, a core mechanism in American media psychology. In contrast, others may promote more frequently, but frequency doesn't equal relevance. Jungkook understands scarcity as power. Through it all, his trajectory in America defines a new blueprint for how K-pop can function outside of Korea without losing authenticity. He didn't compromise his origin, he refined his projection. He didn't Americanize his image, he globalized his approach. Every element from sound choice to body language has been optimized for universality. That's why he stands apart. Jungkook isn't America's most wanted K-pop artist because of what he's achieved. He is wanted because of what he represents: the perfect intersection between credibility, profitability, and predictability. For an industry obsessed with data yet desperate for human connection, Jungkook offers both. In every measurable form, charts, sales, engagement, and cultural impact, his presence dominates. But beneath that dominance lies something subtler. The understanding that America doesn't just see him as a Korean artist succeeding in the West. It sees him as part of its own cultural infrastructure now. That's the quiet transformation that others can only observe. The key to Jungkook's position is that America trusts him. In a business obsessed with metrics, he delivers stability. When he headlines, audiences stay. When he promotes, sales follow. That direct relationship between exposure and performance gives him leverage no agency can manufacture. It's a rare balance of artistry and commercial precision, something US executives constantly chase but seldom find. Even his stage presence has evolved to align perfectly with the American visual code of performance. He doesn't exaggerate movement. He focuses on tension and control. He doesn't chase applause. He earns silence before eruption. That rhythm, knowing when to hold back and when to strike, is the foundation of Western stage psychology. Jungkook understands it instinctively. In the US, his image has gone beyond music. He represents reliability in an era of saturation. When people see Jungkook, they recognize clarity, no excess noise, no forced narratives, no scandal, just precision. That makes him an ideal product of modern fame. Clean, steady, and scalable. Brands call this the trust factor. It's what keeps consumers returning without fatigue. Meanwhile, the rest of the K-pop scene still functions within cycles of comeback and hiatus. Jungkook broke that dependency. His relevance doesn't rely on group timing. It's perpetual. Even when silent, he trends. Even when inactive, he generates anticipation. That's the power structure the American industry understands: best momentum that doesn't need activity to survive. He also fits perfectly into what the US audience subconsciously seeks: duality. Jungkook balances accessibility with mystique. He can appear humble in interviews, yet dominate global stages the next day. He gives enough to feel familiar, but withholds enough to stay untouchable. This duality fuels long-term fascination, and that's what sustains stardom in America. Another factor that keeps him unmatched is his understanding of Western emotional tempo. His songs don't imitate American pop. They translate emotion through precision, rhythm, and tone rather than language. He doesn't force global appeal, he becomes it. That's why his music flows seamlessly on US radio playlists. It doesn't feel imported, it feels inevitable. The American market has seen K-pop acts come and go, but Jungkook's staying power is structural. His value is not tied to hype cycles, but institutional recognition. His collaborations, chart records, and brand alignments are not short-term experiments. They're part of an integrated network that reinforces his centrality to the entertainment economy. Executives see this as a new form of stardom. He is not a performer. He is a scalable entity adaptable across formats, languages, and demographics. That's why they keep returning to him. He's a safe investment with unpredictable appeal, a paradox that fuels both stability and excitement. Within BTS, that dominance is visible. Other members may explore creative projects, but none command the same direct line to the US core market. They may share the legacy, but Jungkook owns the continuation. It's not rivalry, it's structure. The industry naturally aligns around the figure who moves markets, and in this case, it's him. Even as the entertainment world shifts toward AI-driven content and algorithmic distribution, Jungkook remains a constant human counterbalance. His presence reminds consumers what authenticity feels like, and that reminder keeps the audience emotionally grounded. In this way, he's not competing with trends, he stabilizes them. For the US, that's invaluable. A star who commands metrics while preserving sincerity is the rarest type of currency. Jungkook provides both. That's why his name stays in boardrooms, trend reports, and creative briefings not as nostalgia, but as necessity. When observers say the other members can only see it, it's not dismissive, it's descriptive. Jungkook's trajectory has become the line others watch to understand what global power looks like when it stops depending on origin. He has crossed the point where nationality defines category. Now he defines category itself. And so America keeps calling. Labels still strategize, brands still negotiate, and platforms still compete, not for discovery, but for association. They've realized that in a market defined by velocity, Jungkook is gravity. He doesn't move with the industry. He moves it. That's the final truth behind the phrase, America's Most Wanted. It isn't about pursuit. It's about recognition that one artist from Korea now functions as a global constant the US can't replicate. Others can see it, but only Jungkook holds it.